something feels unsafe, and something is happening, and it can be tricky because, for example, my dear son is emotional, so and it's collective. So basically, when I'm disappointed about something, I'm having like all those feelings, and that are very unpleasant. And it's different. It's not exactly the same. I don't have the words for it right now, and it feels too soon. Like this, I didn't have enough time with it to actually discern them. And again, I'm a projector, so as long as it doesn't come from outside of me, I won't be able to see it. Right. I won't be able. My mind will think I'm doing that quite well, but I absolutely won't. But it's very.
I feel you.
It's all very subtle, and it's all like suddenly I'm in alert. I'm not in alert very often. I'm a quite chill person, but suddenly for a split second, there's something that is wrong, and it's also sometimes it's just moving. The spleen moves us. It's not a motor in that way, but my spleen is linked to my root, and sometimes it stops me. Like, for example, I remember once I parked my car in front of a library, and I was going in the library for 5 minutes, just giving them back a book, and I was a bit in a rush. So I did park in a place I'm not supposed to park without paying. It was illegal. Oh no, it wasn't even illegal. No, I was on the road. Yeah, I do that kind of thing. So sometimes, I'm a risk taker. I'm a heretic. So sometimes I do things that way that I'm not supposed to do. And I do that. And I get out of the car, and suddenly my body stops. And I had no idea why, and it took maybe 2 seconds. Someone stopped and looked at the car and said, "Is that your car?" And I say, "Yeah." And they say, you shouldn't be parked that way. There's people looking. There are policemen looking around. And do you want my ticket? Because there's still time on the ticket, and we're leaving. So do you want it? And in those moments, they're like, fuck, yeah, that was my spleen. I'm pretty sure that was my spleen. I don't know why, but I think that was my spleen, or something like. I had a very serious car accident when I was. The day before I turned 16. And when I went into the car, I felt unsafe. And I couldn't, my seatbelt wasn't working in the place I was. And I felt very unsafe at that moment. And I tried to rationalize it. Oh, don't be crazy. It's like 15 minutes drive. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And that was a very, very grave accident. I broke my spine. I had to be in rehab for a year in order to relearn how to walk and stuff like this. And I would say that's really, do you say pivotal?
What's that?
Pivotal moment?
Oh, pivotal, yes.
Pivotal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was a pivotal moment in my life, because that's really one time where my spleen warned me of something, and I didn't listen, and something really serious happened. And the fact that I almost died from it, and almost lose the ability to walk from it, and had like lifelong consequences from it.
Right.
It changed everything. Like that moment, I had one of those moments of knowing, like, my definition is only intuitive knowing. And so sometimes I have those moments of knowing that are very electrifying. And so, electricity in my spine, and I'm suddenly very aware of things, and I just know. And what I knew from that is how much I needed to listen to that kind of sensation telling me that something was wrong.
Right.
And for me, that's the spleen. And I remember that being sometimes in places with my partner, and suddenly I would feel unsafe. And he has a defined spleen too. And even if he's emotional, in those moments, he would be able to say, "Oh, that's not okay. We need to leave."
Right.
you never know what happens when you do leave, like when you do listen, you only know when you don't listen. And
right. And then there's consequences usually.
yeah, exactly. And then
Right.
like Ra was joking around a lot about us saying like we are the I knew it people, and we are definitely the I knew it, because we knew it. We really did. And
Totally.
that's where I start when I'm explaining what Splenic Authority is. And I usually say, okay, have you been in situations in life where you felt something was wrong, you felt you shouldn't be doing something, you did it anyway, and then afterwards, one way or another, you knew why you shouldn't have, and you really knew that something in your gut told you to not do that. That's your spleen. That was your spleen. That's what you need to pay attention to.
Do you mean in the gut, or do you mean in the body somewhere else? I'm curious about that, because I would think I always explain. Yeah, you can just get a bad gut feeling about something too, that's something I hear a lot of sacral generators saying, is that they get a gut feeling, and theirs is more of it's a constriction, like don't go, they don't. It's not necessarily accompanied by the unsafe feeling, but I don't think always. But anyway, that's interesting. We are almost out of time, so I just really want to thank you. That was a brilliant description of the Splenic Authority. I very much feel like I understand it way better, and it kind of reminds me, because I have so many open centers again too. I can think of moments in my own life where I felt something tell me this isn't safe. And so when I first started learning human design, I was a little confused that I wasn't a splenic projector, because I'm like, no, I've definitely had those, like, this isn't safe, you need to leave right now. And again, I don't know why, but I'm assuming the transits were favorable. Plus I do have, I think 3 or 4 different splenic like gates on the spleen that are communicating with me, but the whole center isn't defined. So I don't know. I can't explain why, but it was really helpful, I think, to understand that, I think knowing that we all have all the chart, it can explain why sometimes we get a gut feeling about something, and other times we get a different way of knowing. If we're not splenic, we might have other ways of knowing something besides just those internal body hits. Like some people are just really a little more intuitive too. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
It seems logical that you would have them inconsistently. And the only thing is that it's not your authority.
Right.
And so as long as you're not using that as your authority, and it's because you're going to be feeling unsafe a bit all the time because of your undefined spleen. So it cannot be yours in the way it's ours. And I'm assuming too that if you amplify the feeling of being unsafe of someone, you probably can experience that too, right? Because
yes, totally. I have one son that when he gets a splenic hit, I'm like, I basically explain to the people around, I'm like, hey, hang on, he needs a little bit of time because he's scared. He just feels scared. He feels unsafe for a minute, and he just needs a little bit of time. You can't force him to move forward, but chances are if you wait in a few minutes, he won't feel scared anymore because something will have changed, or his body will have decided it's not as unsafe as he originally thought it was. I mean, it's just a reaction. It's not a permanent sentence, A splenic hit, like you said, the splenic hit is not a permanent sentence. I don't think sacral hits are either. It just means that right now, this isn't right for me. It may change tomorrow or 5 minutes now. So that's really important to work with. It may not.
Except, there are sometimes moments where you're about to enter a place and then the spleen says no. And those usually they don't change.
Right.
They would change after some times. That's something I wouldn't try again and again unless I'm prompted to or someone lead me there. But you can definitely sometimes, and it can be weird. I remember looking for food at some point with my partner, and we were looking for all those grocery shops, and there was a few of them in the same neighborhood because it was a big city. And I don't know why, but I wasn't allowed. Well, my spleen would warn me that no, I shouldn't. even if like looking outside, my mind was totally okay with it and couldn't pinpoint why I wasn't allowed to enter. But all I know is the moment I set foot almost in the building, my body just felt unsafe, and I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there, and then usually we find someplace else, and it's lovely, and it's very weird. It's very weird, and I wish more people would be like accepting of that, because it can be very hard, and it can be upsetting. Some people are taking it personally. Like when my partners say, "Do you want to do that next week?" and I say, "I don't know." Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. It's just easy to take it personally, you know.
Yeah.
And to not accept that, and to just say like, well, try again. Maybe if you ask on another point, I may say yes. I'm not saying that if I say yes I will go, but I may say yes. So it's complicated to live with a splenic person, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I'm thinking on behalf of parents too, like it does. I'm wondering if a question like before you're ready to leave somewhere, like how do you feel about going, like an open-ended question, how do you feel about going to the park today? Like, that's kind of inviting them to share, what they're, like it isn't the same as saying, do you want to go to the park? That's more of a sacral question, but more like, how are you feeling? And then once you arrive, saying, how are you feeling about playing here right now? And really just taking the time. It takes a few extra minutes and a little more patience to just kind of allow the child to let you know if they feel safe there or not, if they feel comfortable. And I think that would be a way to train them to listen to it. I think you're right too, though, even for those of us that have had that inconsistent, still small voice, every time I've ever ignored it, it has been bad. So it is kind of its own built-in teacher, because if you ignore it, there's usually, like we said, consequences. Even if you're not splenic, if you do get a splenic hit and you ignore it, that's usually, it doesn't usually work out well for people. So it is kind of its own teacher.
Yes, it's complicated, because even what we do in not self, we don't necessarily, it's not necessarily unpleasant. Like that's what I was saying by in that moment, maybe it was your spleen talking to you. And I'm sure that if that's the case, I'm sure that if you follow that, you felt safer and you felt better for it. But we cannot know what we missed, because we used something that was in our authority to do it, and sometimes I don't follow a splenic hit, and it seems to be going well. It doesn't, it's not a very unpleasant experience, but at some point I will get stuck into something that will not feel good for me and safe for me. And it's very different, because it means that, sometimes it seems like it's going well and it's not. And so that's an even more complicated situation. All we can do because of that is just, watching, because even that, it's not because my spleen is saying no that I'm not doing something. Like all I can do is watch whatever is happening and the seeming consequences of whatever is happening in regards to whatever I had as a splenic hit or not. And that's all you can do, and gather information that way, especially with all the conditioning that make it so that we are deciding in ourselves anyway. So it's just it's confusing. I guess I hope the way I'm conveying is not too confusing, but it's just,
no, not at all.
It's part of the experimentation, and how it's hard to just let go of the control and let go of the need to know where we're going, and to know what we're doing, and to know that we're doing well, and to know that we are not in not self and stuff like this. All those shenanigans that are so unpleasant about the experimentation. And it's been very interesting to watch for me. I really like that, and it's been life-changing for sure.
Is it before we go, I've heard that it is, or I've read that it's related also to the health of your body. Like if you're feeling slightly unwell, or feel if you're drinking plenty of water. I mean, is the splenic the sound? I guess the volume of the spleen hits. Does it change based on how you're taking care of your physical body? Is there some relationship there?
Not the way it does for you. Because you with your undefined spleen, you have to take care of your body. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very unpleasant for you. This with a spleen, it's different because we can be sick for a very long time, not knowing about it until we drop. So it's good for a defined spleen to go to the doctor sometimes, just to especially for a projector, because we don't have access to us in that way. So it's good to have people around that are saying to us, well, you look tired, you look a bit sick, are you okay? Things like this. And to have a doctor just checking on us regularly. But yes, it's definitely having to do with the immune system. Like mine is defined and consistent, and yours is not. So you have to be wiser about your body and how to take care of yourself. What makes a massive difference is PHS. So it's being in our correct environment and eating correctly per our pH, our determination. That's making a massive difference. Like it's like night and day. Like the less I follow my PHS, so both environment and determination, the less I'm even able to feel the splenic hits. It feels, the body feels sort of numb and very heady. Like all the time in my head and figuring out stuff and deciding with my head and stuff like this. And I can see a massive difference when I'm either pulled out of a more correct environment for me, or we don't have to get into detail with that, especially if it's the end. And when I don't eat per my determination, there's a massive difference too. And that's the only way I can take care of my body without it being mental. Without it being, so we have to do that and that and that, and we cannot do that and that and that. So all that that's useless for me.
Yeah, no, I loved that about our last session together, because we kind of tripped into PHS then too, talking about in context of children. And PHS, which stands for primary health system, it really does kind of simplify a lot of those health choices, right? Like you said, you don't have to necessarily come up with this whole long ritual of how to take care of yourself. In my case, if I eat when the sun is out, that's pretty simple. That kind of by default puts me on a natural fasting program. I mean, right? Like they said, there's a fad going around about like how many hours you should fast or whatever. And then, but I find too that if I have plenty of natural light in a room when I'm learning something, it tends to sink in better. So and then also trying to get my stuff done during the day, and relax at night and go to bed. That's what I have to get my rest, So I think that there's some wisdom in that. Maybe next time we come on the show, we should talk just about PHS, because there's probably hours worth of stuff we could talk about variables. And it's not something that's easy to understand. Partly again, because it's, we talk about the human design, like there is one layer of just learning your strategy and authority is a whole process. If you're a beginner on listening to the show, that is enough for you to work on right now. You don't need to worry about some of the finer points. But once you've gotten comfortable with listening to your authority and knowing your signature of feeling and letting those things kind of guide some of the day in, day out decisions. And this is really like an internal process between, the rider and the vehicle, right? Then once you get to that, then you can start playing with some of the more subtle variables, because they are like you said, tones and colors in the chart. They're not necessarily the surface of the vehicle. It's more the inner workings of it. And you don't even, I don't think that you have to do all of that stuff. I do think that for some people in some vehicles, like just mastering your authority is a big step in the right direction. So, but we should do an episode about PHS if you're open to it. But we'll check.
That would be fun.
I'll check in with your spleen again sometime later about that. I know you're not going to make a commitment today.
That's a safe one, though. It's a safe one, though, because it's very fun to talk about variable. It's just and it's so practical. You know how our minds like that.
Yes.
My mind like that.
Mine too.
My fifth line, and it's so practical and changed so much.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Well, good. I'll take that as a yes. You're comfortable coming on the show again sometime, and we'll figure out when that time is
that's for sure.
based on your authority. So,
Always fun.
thank you for coming. And again, if you want to follow Laetitia, she's on Instagram. I'll have her handle in the show notes, and she's also on Facebook too. But I think Instagram's probably the easiest way to connect. And thank you so much for coming. I always enjoy talking to you about this.